Ever wonder why your efforts to change don't seem to pay off? Do you sometimes feel like you're putting in the work, but not seeing the results you expect? This can be incredibly frustrating, especially when you're trying hard to improve your life or reach your goals. But what if I told you that change is happening, even when you can't see it? That's exactly what we're going to explore in this video. Change is a complex process, often occurring beneath the surface where we can't easily observe it. It's like a seed planted in the ground. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. The soil looks unchanged, and you might start to wonder if anything is happening at all. But beneath the surface, roots are growing, cells are dividing, and a complex system is developing. This hidden growth is essential, laying the foundation for the visible changes that will come later. The same principle applies to personal growth and life changes. When we start working on ourselves or trying to change our circumstances, we often expect to see immediate, visible results. We want to feel different, look different, or see our lives transform overnight. But real, lasting change doesn't usually work that way. Instead, it begins with small, often imperceptible shifts in our thoughts, habits, and actions. These small actions are incredibly powerful, even if they don't feel significant in the moment. Think about how a tiny seed can grow into a massive tree over time. Each day, it grows just a little bit, so little that you wouldn't notice if you looked at it constantly. But over weeks, months, and years, those tiny bits of growth add up to create something impressive and strong. Your personal growth works in much the same way. Every time you make a small positive choice, practice a new habit, or challenge a limiting belief, you're planting seeds of change. These actions might not feel revolutionary in the moment, but they're slowly and steadily shifting your reality. One reason we often don't feel our reality changing is that our expectations don't match the actual process of change. We live in a world of instant gratification, where we can get information, products, and services at the click of a button. This can lead us to expect the same kind of instant results in our personal lives. We might think that if we start a new diet, we should see dramatic weight loss within a week. Or if we begin meditating, we should feel completely zen and stress-free after just a few sessions. But personal growth and life changes don't operate on this timeline. They're more like learning a new skill or building muscle. You don't become an expert pianist after one lesson or develop six-pack abs after one workout. These things take time, consistent effort, and patience. The same is true for any significant life change or personal transformation. Understanding this can help us adjust our expectations and be more patient with ourselves. Instead of looking for big, dramatic shifts, we can learn to appreciate and celebrate the small steps we're taking each day. This shift in perspective can make a huge difference in how we perceive our progress and how motivated we stay on our path to change. Another factor that affects our perception of change is how we focus our attention. Our brains are wired to notice what's different or new in our environment. This was a useful survival skill for our ancestors, helping them spot potential threats or opportunities. But when it comes to noticing gradual changes in ourselves or our lives, this tendency can work against us. We're so used to our daily routines and patterns that we often overlook small shifts. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror every day. You might not notice gradual changes in your appearance, but someone who hasn't seen you for a while would spot them immediately. The same principle applies to our internal changes and life circumstances. To counteract this, we need to actively train ourselves to notice and appreciate small changes. This might involve regularly reflecting on our progress, keeping a journal, or asking trusted friends or family members if they've noticed any differences in us. By consciously directing our attention to these small shifts, we can start to recognize the subtle ways our reality is changing. Measuring progress effectively is crucial when working towards any goal or change. Traditional methods of measurement often focus on big, visible outcomes, like numbers on a scale, income figures, or major life events. While these can be useful markers, they don't capture the full picture of our growth and change. Instead, try to develop more nuanced ways of tracking your progress. This might involve noting small behavioral changes, shifts in your thought patterns, or moments when you respond differently to situations that used to challenge you. For example, if you're working on becoming more confident, you might track instances where you spoke up in a meeting, initiated a conversation with a stranger, or stood up for yourself in a small way. Celebrating these minor victories is incredibly important. Each small win is evidence that you're moving in the right direction, even if the big, visible changes haven't manifested yet. By acknowledging and appreciating these small steps, you reinforce your new behaviors and mindsets, making it more likely that you'll continue making progress. One of the biggest challenges in any change process is overcoming impatience. When we don't see immediate results, it's tempting to give up or conclude that our efforts aren't working. This is where many people abandon their goals or revert to old patterns, but understanding the nature of change can help us push through these difficult periods. Recognize that periods of apparent stagnation are a normal part of any growth process. In nature, there are seasons of visible growth and seasons where growth happens underground. The same is true for personal development. There will be times when you feel like you're making rapid progress and other times when it seems like nothing is happening. But as long as you're consistently putting in effort and moving in the right direction, change is occurring, even if you can't see it yet. During these slow periods, it's crucial to stay motivated and trust in the process. Remind yourself of why you started this journey in the first place. Revisit your goals and the reasons they're important to you. Seek out inspiration from others who have gone through similar processes, and most importantly, keep going. Persistence is often the key difference between those who achieve lasting change and those who don't. Interestingly, change often seems to happen suddenly after a long period of gradual build-up. This phenomenon can be likened to a tipping point, a moment when all the small changes you've been making finally create a noticeable shift in your reality. Think about water heating up. As you apply heat, the temperature rises gradually, degree by degree. For a long time, the water looks the same, but suddenly, at 100 degrees Celsius, it starts to boil. To an outside observer, this might look like a sudden dramatic change, but we know that it's the result of a gradual increase in temperature over time. Personal change often follows a similar pattern. You might be making small shifts in your thoughts, habits, and actions for weeks or months without noticing much difference. Then suddenly, you realize you're handling a situation in a completely new way, or you've achieved something you never thought possible. This sudden change is actually the culmination of all your small, consistent efforts over time. Understanding this can help us stay motivated during periods when change seems slow or non-existent. It reminds us that our efforts are not in vain, even if we can't see the results yet. Just like the water that's slowly heating up, we're building towards our own boiling point, a moment when all our small changes will add up to create a noticeable shift in our reality. Another reason we might not feel our reality changing is that we quickly adapt to positive changes in our lives. This is known as hedonic adaptation, or the hedonic treadmill. Essentially, our brains are wired to return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative life changes. While this adaptability is generally a good thing, helping us cope with difficulties and not become complacent in good times, it can also make it hard for us to recognize how far we've come. The improvements in our lives quickly become our new normal, and we may forget what things were like before. This is why it's important to regularly reflect on your past and acknowledge the progress you've made. Think back to where you were a year ago or 5 years ago. What challenges have you overcome? What skills have you developed? How have your relationships, career, or personal habits improved? Often, when we take the time to make these comparisons, we realize that our reality has changed more than we thought. To enhance our ability to notice subtle shifts in our thoughts and behaviors, we need to cultivate awareness. This involves developing a practice of self-observation and mindfulness. By becoming more attuned to our inner experiences, we can start to notice the small changes that are constantly occurring within us. One effective way to do this is through regular meditation or mindfulness practice. These techniques train us to observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment, allowing us to become more aware of our internal processes. As we develop this skill, we become better at noticing small shifts in our thought patterns, emotional reactions, and behavioral tendencies. Journaling is another powerful tool for cultivating awareness. By regularly writing about your experiences, thoughts, and feelings, you create a record of your inner life. Over time, you can look back and notice patterns or changes that might not be obvious in your day-to-day life. You can also practice mindfulness in your daily activities. This involves bringing your full attention to whatever you're doing, whether it's eating, walking, or talking with a friend. As you develop this habit of presence, you'll likely start to notice subtle changes in how you approach various situations or react to different stimuli. The goal isn't to judge or analyze these observations, but simply to notice them. By increasing your awareness of these small shifts, you'll become more attuned to the ways your reality is constantly changing and evolving. As we work on ourselves and make internal changes, it's important to recognize that these shifts don't occur in isolation. They create a ripple effect, influencing various aspects of our lives and the world around us. This is another reason why we might not immediately recognize the changes in our reality. Sometimes, the most significant effects of our personal growth show up in unexpected areas of our lives. For example, if you're working on becoming more assertive, you might be focusing on how you communicate at work, but you might find that this change also improves your personal relationships as you become better at expressing your needs and setting boundaries. Or if you're developing a more positive mindset, you might notice that you're attracting different kinds of people and opportunities into your life. These indirect effects can be subtle and easy to overlook if we're not paying attention, but they're often where the most profound changes in our reality occur. By expanding our awareness to look for these ripple effects, we can start to appreciate the full impact of our personal growth efforts. It's also worth noting that our personal changes can have a positive impact on others around us. As we grow and improve, we often inspire and influence those in our immediate circle. This can create a positive feedback loop, where our growth encourages others to grow, which in turn supports our continued development. Change is a complex and often invisible process. It happens gradually, beneath the surface, and often in ways we don't immediately recognize. But just because we can't always see or feel it, doesn't mean it's not happening. By understanding the nature of change, adjusting our expectations, and developing our awareness, we can learn to recognize and appreciate the subtle ways our reality is constantly shifting and evolving. Every small step you take, every positive choice you make, is contributing to your growth and changing your reality, even if you can't see it yet. Trust in the process, stay consistent in your efforts, and be patient with yourself. Change is happening, and with time and persistence, you will start to see and feel the results of your hard work. So the next time you feel discouraged because you can't see immediate changes in your life, remember this video. Remind yourself that change is often invisible but always happening. Keep taking those small steps, keep pushing forward, and trust that your reality is changing in ways you might not yet perceive. Your journey of growth and change is unique and valuable. Don't compare your progress to others or get discouraged by apparent lack of results. Instead, focus on your own path, celebrate your small victories, and keep moving forward. With time and persistence, you'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come and how much your reality has truly changed. Change is a fundamental part of life, and by embracing it, even when we can't see it, we open ourselves up to incredible possibilities for growth, happiness, and fulfillment. So keep going, keep growing, and trust that your efforts are making a difference, even when you can't feel it yet. Your reality is changing, and the best is yet to come.